Sharpening a gouge can often be considered quite tricky, but with this machine it's really quite easy. There's two angles that we need to take a look at. The first is the blade angle, and that's the angle of the cutting edge in relation to the length of the tool. Now, because this tool has a tapered blade, we need to draw an imaginary line down the centre. And what we want to try and achieve is a 90-degree angle to that centre line. The other important thing that we want to make sure that we do is have that blade straight. I don't want to round over the tips of the tool. So to achieve this, first of all, we need to offer the tool horizontally into the grinding wheel. What I've actually created here is a flat line across the top. It's going to give me something which you can call a line of light, and that is the edge that I'm going to work towards. So the blade angle is at 90 degrees to the centre line of the tool, and the tips are intact, they're nice and straight, and across the top of the blade, totally flat. So now that we've established the blade angle, our next job is to establish the edge angle. Now, the average angle of a carving tool is anywhere between 20 to 30 degrees, and the angle simply relates to the density of the timber that you're carving. So a 20-degree angle, that's going to give you a far keener edge, but it will be susceptible to damage. Fine for woods like pine, lime, a lightweight Honduras mahogany maybe. But if you were carving something like oak and you're using a mallet, well, then you're going to want a greater angle. So you might go for something like 30 degrees. In this case, I'm just going to establish the existing edge angle, so I'll use the angle finder. That actually tells me that this existing angle is set at 30 degrees, so I'm going to go with that. So we'll just place the short tool jig onto the tool, wind up the screw like so. You want to make sure it's nice and firm. Last thing we want to do is for that to move. And now, using the simple trick of blackening the existing edge angle with a marker pen, I'm going to offer the tool to the stone. With the micro adjustment, just change the angle, and by rotating the stone, all I've done is simply replicated the angle that was already on there, but I can see that I've removed a consistent amount of marker pen from the blade, so that tells me that I've got a nice consistent angle to grind to. So all I'm doing now is I'll rest the shoulder of the jig against the supporting arm and rotate the tool, which will give me a perfect, consistent angle across the face of that bevel. So already you can see this is taking a consistent grind from the edge of that bevel. Now, what I want to look at and be careful of, I'm working towards this line of light. As soon as that line of light disappears, I must stop grinding. If I don't, I'll get a wavy edge, and that means that the cutting edge will start to lose its nice straight, the blade angle will lose its nice straight edge. So the lovely thing about this machine is that it's slow enough to give you control. The stone is coarse enough to remove a reasonable amount of metal, so it doesn't take too long, and there is no way that the blade can get too hot, because water is consistently being carried to the blade to keep it cool. look at that. So we've got a perfect, consistent angle around that curved tool. And I'm getting very close. See how my line of light has almost disappeared now. A little bit more work to do, but look at that bevel. Okay, look at that consistent angle around that blade. Curved blade, consistent bevel all the way around. And importantly, the line of light across the top of the blade has disappeared. I've got a consistent thickness of cutting edge around the profile of the blade at the top. So what we now need to do is hone. First of all, we've got to transfer the supporting arm to the honing wheel side. And I need to recreate the edge angle. I want to get exactly the same angle. Some carvers prefer to have a second bevel. There's no right or wrong about this, it's just a matter of preference. But what I like to do is to have a consistent cutting edge angle with the hone. So I'm going to get exactly the same honed angle as I have with the ground edge angle. To do this, simply mark that ground edge with a marker pen. Like that. You'll notice that I haven't removed the jig. The jig stays in the same place. So I can see that I need to adjust the supporting arm further out. By using this micro adjustment here, can you see how as I turn it, it just moves this supporting arm out fractionally? See that? So I'm just eyeing this through to get the same bevel. And I'll lock that angle off. And to test that bevel, I'm just going to rotate that honing wheel. And there you can see I've got the right angle. See how I've removed a consistent amount of marker pen. See that? Now it is important every now and then to top up your honing wheel with some additional cutting compound. And so all I'm doing here is exactly the same as I've done on the grinding wheel. I'm rotating the blade evenly, and this will give me a polished mirror finish that's razor sharp. So what's now happened is I've formed a burr around the inside edge. So to remove that, what I've now got to do is there's an accessory that you can get for the machine. It's a shaped honing wheel. It's made of leather. And similar to this one, you condition it with oil first, you then impregnate it with the cutting compound. And so you can see as I turn the machine on, can you see how that fits the profile of that carving gouge? And I'm just removing the burr from the inside edge. And then back to the honing wheel for that final finish. Now it's worth mentioning here, again it's a personal preference for carvers. Some carvers like to have an interior bevel. My preference is not to. I like to keep it as straight as I possibly can on the inside of the gouge. No right or wrong, just a personal preference. And so now, let's test it on a piece of timber. So let's take this jig off. Okay, well that's nice and sharp. Try the opposite. It's always a good test if you carve across the grain in different directions. And what I'm looking for is simply to see any white drag marks in the timber. With steady control, I'm getting a nice consistent ribbon across end grain. So we've got a lovely sharp tool.